Hello, everyone. Today is Monday, November 30th. As always, I'm your host for Collectibles and Coffee, Edward Nguyen. Today, we'll be talking about some of the things. I know we had a holiday week this past week. There was no live stream. So we'll kind of catch up on some of the things that did happen the past week. I have some mail here that we'll take a look at, open up, take a look at, see what's inside, and kind of talk about, again, some of the major things we've missed. There are some Black Friday sales that happened this past week for the people who are in the US. Thanksgiving, so that changed the dynamic of the work week a little bit, how sales worked. And then today was also the beginning of the drop for the Secret Lair Anniversary event. Those are live. We'll look at those. We'll kind of review Secret Lair as a whole now that it's 1 year old. We'll kind of look back and see what some of the notable things are, and see what's worth buying, what did well, what didn't, and overall my impressions on Secret Lair and what it's done and how it's changed the face of Magic. So with that, let's get right in. It has been a little bit more than a week since Commander Legends has dropped. For the most part, prices do seem to roughly be bottoming out, or at least they're relatively stable. A lot of the major cards, that we talked about in our last episode 52, that was entirely dedicated to Commander Legends. For the most part, they have been relatively steady in price. I think that they may have gone a little bit closer last week. I didn't really look too much last week. I was really mainly focused on working on my end on Black Friday. I did get some Black Friday sales in. We'll talk about that a little bit. But for the most part, some of the major cards that I did highlight in episode 52 when we were talking things that were worth looking out. The cheap reprints, Staff of Domination, Rings of Brighthearth, some of those reprints, the smaller ones, they have remained relatively stable for the most part. Same with some of the full etch cards. Some of those, I think, haven't really changed in price. Supply seems to be relatively stable. There does seem to be a huge surge of people wanting to buy them. And I assume that's going to kind of be balanced out by the amount of stores that are opening up their collector boosters and just trying to list them online right away and make their money back as quickly as possible. So regarding Commander Legends, as always, I think I stand by the fact that it was a good product. I think that it is something that I'm just getting ahead of myself here. Magic has done well. EDH is something that will always be popular. That EDH is something that will likely outlive competitive Magic this year. If anything, that has been indicative of what Magic looks like during tough times. EDH has continued to thrive. People will always be at their kitchen tables playing Magic. Even when there's no paper events, people can't go out and play in person. There's no large premier tournaments like Grand Prix, Pro Tours, etc. that are a large gathering of people simply because that can't be done right now. But EDH, the nature of it, people will still play webcam EDH. People will still, maybe if they live with roommates who play EDH, will continue to do so. And it has really done well. Commander Legends, even though a lot of the prices have gone down a little bit since their highs, obviously the big cards, Jewel Lotus, can't really sustain the price that it did during pre-order. Commander Legends, I think, has been overall a very successful product for Wizards. I think that is something that they will likely continue to explore in the future. It will be kind of cool to see how they kind of expand on that and how they really grow their Commander market, because it's no surprise that's something that they've done for quite some time. They've catered more and more to the EDH crowd. You have more cards that are designed with EDH in mind. You want those big, exciting commanders, those legendary creatures, those big sorceries and instants that have big splashy effects. Those are always powerful, exciting, and it really changes the face of Magic. And if we look at MTG stocks, just looking at just activity over the past week in terms of cards that have really jumped up in price due to increase in demand, a lot of them are EDH centric, and I think the nature of Commander Legends does give a little bit more longevity to some of these old cards that have more or less fallen out of favor, mainly because they haven't really found a home, and the design, the unique nature of Commander Legends, of a lot of the cards designed with Commander in mind, has really brought a lot of life to some of these. I won't really go into detail about what has changed, but if you want, go look at MTG stocks. There's an article every Friday talking about the biggest gainers during the week. You can really see what's changed there, and overall get an impression of how that's changed the market. Regarding Black Friday, For those of you who may have missed it, TCG Player did a 10% credit kickback on Black Friday that extended into Saturday morning. All that means is that 10% of your purchase will be given back to you in the form of TCG Player store credit. You spend $10, you'll get $1 back in credit into your account at a later time, effectively saving you 10%. Granted, it's not directly money back, you're not taking 10% off, but I imagine most people who do spend will likely be using credit again in the future. So it's a nice way to kind of get that. It's a nice buffer for sellers. Sellers generally look heavily towards Black Friday. This is something that we've discussed in the past regarding Black Friday. October, November, very, very, very slow month for retailers. I know a lot of stores have had some pretty tough times in these past probably about 4 to 6 weeks or so, extending all the way back to October. It's been kind of a drought in sales. Black Friday is a way to help push that. TCG Player doing that extra 10% kickback really does help a lot of sellers. I know a lot of sellers were eagerly working through the weekend, trying to get cards listed as quickly as possible, really trying to capture as many sales onto the TCG Player platform as they can, because it really becomes a race to get your sales, to get your cards going, as buyers are trying to buy it up. From the consumer perspective, it's really, really good because obviously you get the 10% back, and because stores are motivated to sell, you have a lot of people that do reprice. There's two thoughts to this. A lot of people do price downwards to try and get that sale as quickly as possible. I know some stores actually price upwards because they know that the volume of sales will increase dramatically on Black Friday, that rather than sell quickly as possible, they would rather price up a little bit and get a little bit more for their money. It's a strategy. I know that I know both types of sellers that do this. I think they're both perfectly valid. As a consumer, it's something you will watch out for. Generally, I'm doing this on Monday, so Black Friday is already come and gone. There's actually another Cyber Monday sale today on November 30th. Same idea, 10% back. So if you missed out on anything on Black Friday, you can still get that 10% credit back today. I think a lot of the best deals would have probably been Thursday night, right at midnight, when TCG Player launched the sale. A lot of people already would have had items in their cart, just trying to buy things as quickly as possible before the cheap items disappear, and the prices will slowly creep up as those cheap items disappear, especially with a lot of sellers who may be a little bit harder pressed to try and get their inventory list as quickly as possible, and with a lot of buyers wanting to get the best possible deal, they don't really want to wait. It's possible that today, on Monday, you can still get some deals if you missed out on anything. You just have to kind of be aware that you may have missed some of the best deals on Friday. I think that's perfectly fine. 10% back is still a substantial amount. It may vary. I get the most benefit from it because I live in Oregon. There's no sales tax in this state, so it's truly 10% off for me. I imagine a lot of other people... Calabalic, TCG Player sales actually start at 8 a.m. Eastern. I did not know that. That really goes to show how on top of it I was. I was spending most of the day just trying to list cards and get orders out as quickly as possible. Thank you for updating me that and letting me know. So that's something that's good to know for future reference. So thanks again for that note. What was my train of thought here? A lot of sellers did work through the weekend to try and really push out as many of their sales as possible. I had a whole slew of orders. I made sure to get anything that was ordered on Black Friday out on Saturday. And then today, normal work week, so a bunch of orders will go out tomorrow as well. There were some other sales from various websites. There was a whole thread on the MTG Finance subreddit for people who followed that. A lot of places did do something similar, just a small either discount singles, which was a direct way of saving you money, or indirectly saving you money by giving you credit. That was what Card Kingdom did. So it was a reasonable time to purchase cards then. Now, I think that we are past that. We're into December. I think it's possible that if you didn't, purchase cards already during Black Friday or today, it may be worth waiting to see how the next week or 2 weeks pan out. It is firmly into holiday season now. People are going to start thinking towards Christmas. We're less than 1 month out. People are going to start thinking about gifts. A lot of people may be a little bit more hard up on money. If they're pressured to do so, they may be wanting to sell their cards. There will be opportunities, in my mind, to buy. This is something that happens every December. When people do need the money to make holiday purchases, they will often sell off their cards first. There are plenty of opportunities to buy. I think buying the dip is something that is worth considering in the near future. If you are liquid, if you have the ability to buy, it may be advantageous, a gamble to do so, to wait another week or so to see if prices go down. But I think if you just want to save the 10% credit on and get the 10% back in credit on TCG Player, buying today probably not the worst idea. With that, we'll kind of shift gears. I did get some things that I've ordered in the past, so we'll just kind of go through. I opened up the packages, so there's no real unboxing on here, but just to kind of break down some of the things I got. This is something that we've talked about in the past. I think I made a brief video regarding numismatics. I'll hold up a little bit closer so people can see. This is from the United States Mint. This is an American Eagle 1 ounce gold uncirculated coin. I'll open this up so we can take a closer look at it. So it does come in a nice little display box from the US Mint. So for those of you who haven't seen this yet, I don't know if my camera can actually pick up the detail on it, but if we look closer, this is, as it says on here, this is 1 ounce of fine gold. This is 22 karat gold. This is an American Gold Eagle. This is kind of the go-to design when people look at bullion. When people look at 1 ounce of gold, 1 ounce of silver, there's also a design. Oh, I need to get that a little bit closer. There's also a separate design for silver eagles. So this is 1 ounce. The face value on it is $50. The cost on this was $2,490. This is 1 ounce of gold. If you go back and look at the numismatics video, I did talk about the opportunities for purchasing gold and silver. There's reasons to do so. This is one of the things that I happen to buy. For the most part, these do well. I think there's a multitude of reasons why these generally do well. One, the mintage is fairly low on this. These are produced at West Point. They have a mint at West Point where they make these. And they actually announce how much they print. There's only 7,000 of these coins minted at all. For these to be uncirculated, it's a very, very low number. I believe the website sold out of all 7,000 within about 15 minutes or so. So not quite as quickly as the World War II victory proofs that came out a few weeks ago. Those were a little bit more expensive. And the demand is a little bit higher, but these still fairly low mintage. So, and they're not going to print anymore. So there's a lot of appeal there. A lot of these have done well in the past. Each year they do have a separate uncirculated minting of them. They're all same idea, fairly low minted. They're stamped with the year. They have the West Point stamp. There's a certificate of authenticity inside to verify that it's real gold. You know you're getting real gold because you're buying it direct from the US Mint. So you have that safety net as well. The resale on these are generally pretty good. Right now, they're flooding the market pretty quickly as a lot of people who do buy them do have them for resale. But usually if you do hold on to these, finding uncirculated ones are generally pretty popular among collectors, especially the people who want to send them in for grading. 7,000 of them really isn't a lot. That's about slightly more than twice as rare as or twice as common rather than a beta Black Lotus or any beta rare. Beta rares have a printing of roughly 3,300 of each, so a little bit about twice as common, but the demand is there. There's people will always want these. The unique thing about this particular year, the 2020 version, is that this is actually the final year they are going to use the original design from Augustus Saint Gaudens. If you look on the back here, let me try and get this in much closer. This is the original design used from the 1907 to 1933 $20 double eagle. For those of you who may be a little bit more familiar with numismatics, the 1933 double eagle is actually one of the most coveted coins in the world. Private sale on that, I think in 2002, exceeded I want to say like $7 million or some very, very high number. And this is actually the original design from that. This is actually going to be the last year they're going to use that original design. They're actually going to have a new minting next year, and the 2021 version of the American Gold Eagle will actually use a separate design. So this year will be likely more significant. There may be a premium this year because this is the final year, and then next year, same idea. I imagine that next year being the first printing of the new design will also have demand as well. So there's definitely a fair amount going for this coin. In general, given my thoughts, I've voiced them in the past, I think holding on to some amount of gold and silver bullion is never a truly bad idea. It is another way that people hedge against inflation. If we do predict a stimulus check to come out in the near future, holding on to liquid cash, not necessarily advisable, especially if you can park that money in assets elsewhere. So this is something to consider. This is 1 ounce. I know this is probably a little bit bigger than what most people have in their budget to buy. $2,500 a pop is something that is probably a little bit dubious for people to get into, but if this is something you're interested in, I recommend you check out the Numismatics video. Numismatics is actually something I'm looking into more and more. It's definitely something that is very, very interesting. The market is entirely different than what we're used to in terms of more conventional collectibles in the sense of TCGs, Pokemon, Magic, etc. It is a different element. It does have a different learning curve. There usually is a lot more money involved in it because some coins do tend to get more expensive, but it's not really different than looking at Pokemon or Magic. You will always have cheap cards, common cards. You can really start out with a small amount of money. You can start out with $10, $100, or you can obviously be buying 1 ounce gold coins, $2,500 a pop. There are definitely dealers out there that purchase these in very, very large volume. But if you're just a beginner, go check out the Numismatics video. I do cover a lot of basics regarding numismatics. If you're looking to get in, I'm still learning it, trying to learn as much as I can. It is definitely very interesting to me. I think that for someone who's interested in diversifying their portfolio, it's worth looking at, doing a little research, and if you have the money to afford it, buy one of these. These are sold out, so you obviously can't buy these anymore, but follow on the US Mint, follow on limited edition products that they have, because a lot of them do sell well. Coin collecting is something that is very much alive. A lot of people do see it as a boomer activity, a boomer hobby for generally an older generation, which is understandable. It is something that appeals to a different generation. For us, from people like me who are in our early 30s, late 20s, etc., we grew up with Pokemon. So trading card games, we were really in the era of trading card games. So it's something that works for us. But if we think a little older, if we think about someone who is maybe born in the 70s, 60s, etc., coin collecting, stamp collecting, money collecting, these are all things that they do. Paper money, actually, to be more specific. These are all things that would have been accessible to them when they were kids. So that market is a little bit different, as mentioned. There is a bit of a learning curve. It is definitely different than thinking about it from a conventional TCG investing and collecting sense, but it is there. That is something that is worth looking into. Enough with numismatics. Moving onwards, one of the things that came to me over the weekend as well was this product. For those of you who are into Pokemon, you are probably much more familiar with this. This is Shiny Star V. This is the product that was released in Japan on November 20th, the same day as Commander Legends. This is kind of their annual reprint set. This is pretty analogous to a master set in the Japanese Pokemon TCG. So a lot of what's in here are reprints of key cards from the sets. So reprints are in here, but it is a unique set in the sense that they add a lot of premium holographic rares that do have a different art. They have a very unique art. I have a few singles here that I'll take a look at, but this is a product that has definitely done very well. This is something that a lot of people are very excited for. For people who haven't seen this, this is something that it will come out eventually in English, but it may not be a one-for-one translation. That means that not every card in the set will directly make it over to the US version of this. The closest analog, if we look back to, I'm going to actually pull up the exact numbers here. If we look back to the original version of this, Ultra Shiny, GX Ultra Shiny, I think it came out in 2017. The English version was Hidden Fates. There was a bit, it was a little bit different. I'm going to pull it up here just so I have the exact number for people. Let's see. In the meanwhile, while I look this up, one of the biggest things about this is that there's a lot of very unique foiling in this that only exists inside these sets. That's kind of a major selling point. This is something that is definitely very visually attractive for people who like to collect. The art is very, very cool. There is a big part of that. That's why the set generally sells very well. And I think for the most part, this is something that is generally a good hold in terms of sealed product. The profile is a little bit different than most English booster boxes. This is kind of how Japanese products are packaged. So in this box, it's a pretty small box. You can take a look at it. It's easy to store. So space equity is something that I've mentioned a lot when I mention storing sealed product. I don't like to store sealed product because it takes up a lot of space. The profile on this is much smaller, so it's a little bit easier to stash these in large volume if this is something you want to hold on to. So I do like these. These do have only 10 packs in them versus 36 packs for booster boxes. So there's 10 packs in here. There's 10 cards inside each pack, and I will bring up some of the more novel things about this as soon as I can pull up the number. But I can't quite seem to find it right now. Maybe if I can find a moment, I'll get back to it. But I'm losing my train of thought while I'm trying to do this. Here we go. So the original Ultra Shiny GX, it had over 250 cards. In the Japanese version, there were a lot of secret rares, unique, those are the original shattered foils. That was what they called in Japanese. But if you look at the Hidden Fates that came out a few months later, the set, instead of the 250 cards of Ultra Shiny, they only brought over 69 cards from the set, and then the Shiny Vault, which had the unique foiling, actually had 94 cards. So both those together, that's 163 cards. So you can see it's substantially less. So a lot of the cards that did exist in Japanese didn't quite make the port over. So that is something to be aware of. That's why these generally do well, because even though some of these cards do have an English version, not all of them make it overs, and some people do like the uniqueness. So these generally tend to do pretty well. Ultra Shiny boxes are actually about $200 now. They've gone up fairly substantially since they've been printed in about 2017. Just to have a closer look, some of these cards. So these three are, they're listed as Amazing Rare. So these are very similar to the versions you get in Vivid Voltage. They do have a very unique foiling to them. These are only 3 inside the set. I don't know if I can quite capture on my camera. But these, they look pretty cool. They have, these are fairly iconic cards, Reshiram, Kyogre, and Yveltal. Players will definitely collect these for the art. In terms of playability, these aren't necessarily anything to write home about. They're nothing phenomenal, but the foiling, looks, you can kind of see on the camera. The foiling is definitely very neat. It makes it very collectible. These are very cool. And then you actually have these ultra rares as well. So these are entirely in kind of a black and gold. The foiling is very, very unique. Compared to most other cards. I think that's something that Pokemon definitely does well. Both these cards exist in a regular form, so if these cards do become competitive, you're not necessarily required to own these cards in order to be a competitive player. You can just get the base version. They'll play just fine. But for the people who like to upgrade their deck, who like to get the ultra rare variants, the most premium variants, these cards do exist, and they are definitely very cool. That's, again, a really big selling point of this set. In terms of aesthetics, in terms of collectability, these types of sets in Japan definitely knock it out of the park, and if it's any indication how well this will do, the 25th anniversary set that will come out, I believe, in February or March, is also likely to be just as successful. It's definitely going to be a huge hit. Champions Path, we already saw how popular Champions Path was. Even though they've reprinted them multiple times, there's going to be more and more coming out as there's just so much demand for Champions Path. The fact that it's selling out as quickly as they can restock it is really indicative of how much demand there is for that set, how many people simply want to open the set. There is a Charizard VMAX inside. It's not clear if that will make it to English. I imagine it's such an iconic card, it's such a signature card for a set that it will. But in the event that it doesn't, it will probably only make these boxes more expensive. So I've definitely been doing very well with the sealed boxes, with the singles. Let me actually grab another box over here. The box I have here, this is a Nessa box. So this is, I imagine, what they would kind of loosely make a Elite Trainer box into. So this is definitely something that is pretty cool. This is a pretty big box. The contents of this box, there are actually 2 booster boxes. So inside of this, there are 2 booster boxes of the Shiny Star V inside this box. And you also get a set of sleeves that have the Nessa art in front. You also have a deck box, a high quality plastic deck box. These deck boxes are much nicer in Japan than they are in English. In America rather. The plastic feels nicer, they feel a little bit more sturdy, they're not as flimsy. You get a Nessa coin, and then you get this kind of the outer storage box that is definitely a much it feels much higher quality than the English Elite Trainer boxes. So for people who like to store their cards, this is definitely a very viable way to do as well. This is just one example of the types of products that come out in Japan. They're definitely very popular. There's definitely a big following for people who cannot get these otherwise. I've definitely done very well with these. And this really just goes to show how much Pokemon is really becoming aware of their collector market, of people, of them releasing these products that are slanted in such a way that really appeals to collectors because it simply has the cool factor there. So this is Shiny Star V. I've definitely sold a lot of it. I do have some available. If people want some, feel free to hit me up. If you're looking to buy this product for any sort of reasons, you will hold on to some. Great. I think that, as mentioned, they're a good hold. If you want to open, if you want to own these cards just to collect them, or if you want these things, you really can't go wrong. I think the Japanese Pokemon product is just so cool in terms of how unique they are. So that would just kind of wrap up on some of the things I got. The US Mint, the Shiny Star V, those are really kind of the bigger things I got on the weekend. Moving onwards, kind of the last topic that we'll cover today is Secret Lair. There was a lot of speculation last week. They were kind of really hyping up the event. We are roughly at 1 year since Secret Lairs first dropped for Magic the Gathering, for Wizards of the Coast. If you've never seen a Secret Lair before, let me actually grab one off the shelf. If you've never seen one before, it looks like this. This is an older one. This is International Women's Day 2020. It comes in a box. It kind of has a large, fairly wasteful, kind of a black box. I can't really see it without opening this. I don't really want to open it. It seems a little excessive to me because this box only contains like 5 cards and they all are shaped this way. That's one of my biggest knocks against it. We'll kind of talk more about it, the pros and cons of these in a second. But that's what these look like. They have a bunch of different themes. We've really seen a full mix of them, ranging from the first ones, they were generally singles. That was kind of their foray into, in my mind, how can we directly sell singles from ourselves, Wizards of the Coast, direct to consumer without having to go through a middleman, through a distributor, etc. They are fairly unique in the sense that so far, cross our fingers, 1 year, they've held true to their word. They have not reprinted any of them. They were made to be available for a very set amount of time, after which point they won't be selling anymore. So this is kind of a pseudo reserve list, in the sense that they're available for a limited time, and on the more recent sets, they're basically made to order. So depending on when you order, they will basically only produce as many as needed to fulfill whatever is being ordered. So it sounds like they're not making a lot of extras, so it's unlikely we'll see a reprint on these. It's possible, I'm not ruling it out. So far we've made 1 year and they've held true. Nothing has been reprinted yet, but that may change in the future. I think it's one of those things that they have become more and more aware that this is something that is good for them. It is a big money maker. It is something that is low effort, and they're really pushing their premium and over the top products into their Secret Lairs. If you look at some of the Secret Lair Anniversaries, there's definitely some very unique ones. I think the most unique one is was it Party Hard? Let me see if the name. Party Hard Shred Harder. I think that's kind of a very unique design. If you look at them, they really do not look like Magic cards at all. I think the art is cool. I think the design is cool. I think this is definitely the spot where, if you're going to sell a Secret Lair, this is how you'd want to sell it. And it's just so unique compared to your traditional Magic card. They basically have just very metal looking, like death metal looking art on their cards. They basically have cards that are definitely very casual friendly. Thraxmundar is in there, Anguish of Making is in there, Dreadbore is in there. These are the types of cards that put in there. They have very death metal art. They look very cool, but in my mind they don't really look like Magic cards. But as mentioned, this is really their place to sell this type of premium card that you really can't get otherwise, and they know that it will sell because they have that uniqueness to them. We've seen this before with the Walking Dead Secret Lair. That's been something that's kind of fallen out of people's mind. That was only a little more than a month ago that was really kind of at the forefront of activity. They've yet to be shipped, to my understanding. But as mentioned, when you really try to push the envelope, this is really how they can sell their product. One, they make it limited. It's only available for a small window. I think the current Secret Lair Anniversary events, I think you can order these through December 14th. So you have about 2 weeks to do so. It is important to note that the longer you delay on ordering, if you're going to wait until the last day on December 14th to order it, you are probably going to be towards the very back of the line in terms of when you'll receive your product. As mentioned, it is made to order. Imagine they have some sort of queue system where they basically stagger it in so that the people who order it first, when you have the first 1,000 orders, for example, or 10,000 orders, they probably put a batch order in, and all those will get made at the same time. They'll start printing them, and then once those 10,000 are done, then they'll get those sent out, and then once another 10,000 get ordered, let's say the next week, for example, I have no idea, I'm just making these numbers up, another batch gets made, and then those will get shipped out in the second wave. And then if you're, again, waiting until the 14th as one of the final stragglers, you may be waiting for kind of whatever is left at the end that the printing process has to go through, and for them to pack the Secret Lairs and ship them out. So if you do want them, if you're looking to resell them, or if you're looking one of the sellers that does want to have these in stock and sell them right away, it is in your best interest to order as quickly as possible. Again, just so you can get them early and be selling them first. I do have some mixed thoughts about that, about Secret Lair. This seems to come up frequently. Fundamentally, one of the issues I have is the direct to consumer business model. This is something that I think I've talked about this, especially with the last Secret Lair, the Walking Dead Secret Lair. I think this is something that punishes retail game stores. I don't think it's the healthiest business model. They're basically printing cards, singles, direct to the consumer, and when you're doing that, they're undermining the lifeblood of the TCG industry, which is game stores, which is hobby stores, which these stores, they already operate on low margins. We've talked about this before. It's not glorious. You're not, people who own game stores, they aren't making money hand over fist. By doing so, there's a lot of pushback in the community. It's a hard place, especially now with the pandemic, more so than ever. when stores can't lean on their events, in-person events, to get people in their store, get people inside the store, get people playing, get people buying cards, selling cards. It really becomes very taxing on the stores. A lot of stores have gone under this year, from what I've seen and heard and talking to people. And even the people that are still open, they dramatically changed their business model, how they do things to accommodate what's happening. And what Wizards is doing by producing these secret lairs is basically capturing a piece of that pie that is normally available to game stores and taking it for themselves. And this is something that I do have an issue with, mainly because stores, again, they're in a tough spot. I think that Wizards doing this, again, is undermining profits that should be theirs. I think something along the lines of Commander Legends Green, which is going to come out in a few days. I believe it comes out later this week, actually. That's something we'll revisit in the future. I think having that design is something similar to Commander Legends Green or From the Vault in the past. Same idea, make it distributed to your stores, allow them to order, but enforce a price on it. I don't know. There's a lot of legal issues regarding that. Make it so that it is available to people. Make it so that people who are buying only to resell will have a hard time to do so. Make it a very somewhat limited run, which I realize is at odds. But if this is something that you can print to demand, there are probably ways to work around this. But reward your game stores. As mentioned, they are lifeblood of the ultimately what the TCG industry is, and I think undermining them is a really poor way to go. This is one of the strongest issues I take against this. I think Wizards is also aware that game stores are probably capturing a piece of the market that they haven't had access to in the past, which is the singles market. Wizards knows this. Even though they can't directly acknowledge the secondary market, this is something that they've been very steadfast about in the past. There's no way that they don't account for the secondary market when it comes to producing these cards, when it comes to making these available and what goes into each of the secret lairs, because they know that they want cards that sell. They want cards that will be valuable, that people can justify spending $30, $40, $50 on for a secret lair. People can justify spending that money on because the value is there. You do have some exceptions. The Eldraine Wonderland, that's actually one of the better secret lairs in terms of resale value. It's one of the few ones that's gone up appreciably. That one is kind of unique. It has lands inside, and generally people are buying these in mass. People aren't just buying one of each land for their deck. Usually if they have a deck, they'll probably need a small handful of them, so the individual lands generally sell well. They generally are pretty good for the most part. They do have decent resale value, and the box itself also fairly profitable. Also something that has done well in the newest anniversary version of the secret lairs. There's also the Bob Ross lands, kind of thematic in the sense that they do kind of capture the essence of Bob Ross. If you've never seen him, watch his videos. They're definitely very entertaining. They're very relaxing. It's definitely therapeutic to watch them. He definitely has a big following for his videos, and some of the lands I think are especially cool. They're very gorgeous, and I think those probably will do well in the sense that they are different from your traditional secret lairs, where most people who buy secret lairs probably only need one. If we think about the most recent one, the charity one that they did, the name escapes me, that they did beginning of November. If you think about the cards inside, Teferi's Protection, Consecrated Sphinx, those are the type of cards where people aren't really going to buy more than one. Maybe they buy 4 just so they have a playset of Teferi's Protections, a playset of Consecrated Sphinxes, etc. Most people may only buy 1 or 2 depending on how many they need for their decks. But lands, people are going to be buying 5, 10, 15 of them. And this actually allows them the unique opportunity where if they only need, for example, if they have an Izza deck, they only want islands and mountains. It allows them this opportunity to open up their secret lairs and piece them out. They keep the islands and mountains for themselves, and they can actually sell back the islands or the plains, swamps, forests for a decent amount. Of the price. So that's something to consider. This is something that does well. Brad Ian, I like the background music. Thank you. I have just WoW singing in the background. For people who don't know, I like WoW, World of Warcraft. This is something that it's one of the hobbies that I really enjoyed from growing up that I still enjoy to this day. You can look behind me. If you look, I have Blizzard art. I actually have some WoW art that's actually in the process of being framed right now. So I do like what Blizzard does. I think that despite the controversy around them, I do enjoy most of their franchises. I used to play a lot of StarCraft as a kid. WoW is the way I pass my time now. The new expansion dropped, so that's something that I've been playing the past few days over the weekend when I had some time in between the dealing with Black Friday sales. So thank you, Brad, for pointing that out. Back to the topic of Secret Lairs. I think overall for Wizards is definitely successful, and I think that this is something that we can't deny. I looked on TCG Player before doing this. It looks like there's roughly 42 unique Secret Lairs that they've produced. I'm not counting foil, non-foil versus as being unique. To me, they're the same one. I realize the price is different, but there's 42 different ones totals. We've definitely seen a full range of them. We had the Secret Lair Ultimate, which was a huge controversy in itself. If you think back to June, July, that was the one that had the five fetch lands in it, kind of in that oversized box. There was a lot of controversy when they said that, when it was first announced, that the price would be around $165. Of course, very few of those boxes I imagine actually sold for $165. Most of them were probably in the 250 to 300, 350 range. It's gone down quite a bit. I think the fact that they announced that fetch lands will be printed next year in Modern Horizons 2, I think kind of kept the price down a little bit because there is an impending reprint. So that was definitely kind of caused a whirlwind of activity in itself. Stargazing, that was the one with the Theros gods, the full 15 Theros gods. That was definitely one of the more popular ones because the gods themselves, very, very popular in EDH. Most of them will be played in some capacity or another. Most of them do have a home. The original foils are pretty expensive, and I think the fact that these foils were just an alternative for people. They had alternate art. It was an alternative way to buy some of these foils that people need for commander decks. Was very cool. That was something that was fairly well received. I definitely did well with the bundles, with selling all 15 of the Secret Lairs in one go. So that was something that was earlier this year. I think that I want to say that was probably towards February or March, roughly when the time of Secret Lair was happening. So that was exciting at the time. Oh My God Kitties, I believe that was in the original iteration of Secret Lair. I think they were among the very first ones that were printed. Those have definitely done well. They're actually one of the most expensive individual Secret Lairs. I think that a lot of people do have a lot of interest. The fact that the cards are just very cute. They have kittens on them. They're all cat-based cards, which is really ironic because I think most people didn't really have this one on their radar as being one of the better ones. I think people had their mind on Bitter Blossom Dreams, I think that was the name of it, as being kind of the intended purpose of Secret Lair with these cards that are being printed direct to the consumer. It was kind of a time for Bitter Blossom to get a reprint, as it were, with alternate art. People had their more of their eyes set on those. I think Oh My God Kitties kind of got swept underneath the rug. There wasn't as much visibility on it. People weren't quite looking at it the same way, simply because I think the cards themselves may not have a high value similar to what Bitter Blossom was, but the fact that the cards are so unique really changes the dynamic of the Secret Lairs themselves. And I think if you're looking to buy any of the anniversary ones, think about the cards in terms of uniqueness and how cool they are versus simply the value of the cards themselves. Because Magic cards, most of the value of a card is related to its utility. How powerful is this card? You can have a card that will have phenomenal art that will look very cool, but if it's a common or if it's just not very good, it will never be worth a substantial amount of money, no matter how cool the art is. The art cannot carry the value of a card. So when you think about Secret Lair, that does change a little bit. I think the idea that the art is a big factor into the card is something that really changes the dynamic of how Secret Lairs work. I think the Bob Ross lands, I think those are something that will do well in the future. If you want to buy them and you have the capital to do so and you have the space to store them, buy 20 of them, buy 40 of them, buy 100 of them. Because people, as mentioned, people will need lands for their decks. And if you're a seller who has 20, 40, 100 of these in stock, you're going to get a large purchase from people who want to have 30 of them for their EDH deck, for example, or people who want 20 of each one for their cube. By being able to offer that to by having that available, I think is a good spot to make money in the future. Buying things that, if you're looking at purely from, well, this box set is $30 and the value of the cards inside individually is about $35, I should buy this, may not be the best. If you look at most of the Secret Lairs from a value perspective, most of them haven't really climbed substantially in value. Most of them have gone up a little bit when it comes to scarcity. I think that's a big part of it. The fact that they do slowly sell over time and they will slowly dwindle over time will mean that they'll become slowly more valuable, but most of them are not really that much more than what their actual price was. For example, if we go back to the one I have right here, International Women's Day 2020, I bought these because the value of the singles inside I thought would have been good. I think that it would have been a good hold. But for a $50 Secret Lair, you can buy these on TCG now for like $80 or so. If we factor in the price of shipping, you're not really netting a lot on top of that $50 after shipping and fees, because these can't go in a traditional bubble mailer. The cheapest way I've found to ship these is actually inside a padded flat rate envelope priority that costs about $8 in the current time. UPS has raised their price a little bit. So if you have $80, you take off TCG fees, which is about 15%. If we just say the 15%, we're at $68. We pack in our $8 to ship this, on top of padding, the materials, etc. You're down to like $60, which really is not that much. This product may actually have even been $60. If someone does remember, help me out here. I don't remember the exact MSRP on this. It was either 50 or 60. Regardless, after you're selling this, you're not making a lot, which is unfortunate, but that is something to consider, especially when you're looking at Secret Lairs in the future, especially if you're thinking about buying any of these anniversary ones for holds. It is possible that buying the bundle may be a good deal, but as mentioned, there's some hit or miss ones. There's some that I really don't see gaining value at all, and I'm not sure it's worth paying for those to get the bundle price, to get some of the ones that you actually do want at a cheaper price. It's a bit of a catch-22. I'm not really sure what the complete play is there, but I do think that there's some room. You just have to be careful. It is all speculative. It's hard to say what's going to do well, what isn't. So you really have to kind of pick your battles. You have to find what is within your budget. If you end up keeping them, it's just because they don't pan out, they don't get more valuable. Do they have a home? Are you okay buying them to keep them for your EDH deck, for your cube, or whatever? All things to consider when you do buy them. I think that this is definitely one of the things that you want to proceed with caution. Don't go too crazy. Don't be buying a ton of them. I've definitely gotten burned on a few Secret Lairs. I bought a bunch of the Thalia Secret Lairs, and I think their price on the drop was $29.99. The price on them on TCG Player for the sealed boxes is like $42. So there's really no money to be made there. I haven't even listed them yet. I'm just holding on to them, waiting for them to go up before I do list them. And realistically, with the amount of space they take up, I'm probably coming out behind. I think that's the reality of it. It may be a sunk cost fallacy that I'm like trapping myself with right now. I probably should just get out of them just so I can get the stuff out of my house and free up some of that space. That's something to consider. So with the Secret Lairs overall, proceed with caution. Don't go ham. I wouldn't advise people going out and buying just a ton of these, buying bundles and bundles of them. They do sell slowly. They do sell, so you won't ever get stuck with them, but I imagine that there are people out there who are thinking the same thing, who are thinking that there's money to be made here, and they're buying a ton of these, stashing them away, and then just slowly selling over time. And these are the people that you're going to be competing with. just something to consider if you're going to go deep on them. So with that, that'll kind of be a wrap on today's episode. I know we did cover a lot of topics. Some of these we may revisit again in the future, just to reanalyze and see how we did on some of these. As always, thank you all for listening. For people who want to follow me, ask me questions, leave feedback on the YouTube videos. I do read every comment. I do try and respond to everything. I know that a lot of people have provided good feedback, and I would try and incorporate them into future videos. You can find me on Twitter at Edwin13. You can find the social media sites for Vermilion PDX on the right. As always, thank you for listening. I appreciate everyone who has given me feedback in the past. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving this past week. Now that we're kind of full swing in the holiday season, I do expect things to get more busy. Wherever you're in the world, stay safe. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Thanks again for listening.